Thanks so much for joining us on Sights on the City today. We talked to City Council candidate Charlie Reece. Delighted to curate your city, Durham. This is my colleague and dear friend, Justin Laidlaw, aka Buddy Rusky, asking lots of important questions about what matters for the future of your city. Follow us on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned for more interviews with City Council candidates and City Council members. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and our website, Clarion Content Media. We curate your city, Durham. Fascinating segue, really, and welcome to Sights on the City. I'm Aaron Mandel, the editor of the Clarion Content, sitting here with our managing editor, Justin Laidlaw, Runaway Clothes marketing director. You can see smartly slipped in the Runaway Clothes shirt there.
By the way, I have that hat with the stars. That's my favorite hat, but I'm afraid to wear it in public because it makes me look like a doofus.
You could have worn it here.
I should have. That would have been solid. But I wear it around the house all the time when I'm working in the yard and stuff.
We'll have to make a red, blue, and yellow suit to go with it.
Oh my gosh! How about just a tie with the little star motif in the middle?
Ooh, the Runaway tie collection.
You could do that.
Something
you could do that.
Been
Don't give anything away just
yet. Oh, sorry. I'm breaking news here. Sorry, everybody. Just back up, rewind that part of the tape. You be all business.
Right. City Council candidate Charlie Reece. As you can tell, he's a man of many talents. We were just sitting here discussing the diversity of his background, all of these things he's been through and done, which seem to inform who he is today and why he's running now. From starting a homeless shelter as an undergrad at Harvard to doing the radio show there and then being a financial advisor and ending up as a prosecutor in his hometown in Winston-Salem. So it seems like there's been a long journey to the idea of public service.
Yep.
What was your first entree point as a candidate? This isn't your first candidate?
It is. It's the first time I've run for public office. I'm completely new at this.
What gave you the spur to, having been all these other things, say, I'm going to run for city council in Durham? Well, why do you want to do it?
Over the last couple of years, I've become more involved in the political life of Durham. I spent a good amount of time and energy last summer working on the police reforms alongside the Fade Coalition. And that really gave me the entry point to really being deeply engaged in the political life of Durham. And what I found over the last 6 months or so is that I think we're reaching a fever pitch downtown with economic development, specifically high-end residential development. And there are a lot of great things about that. That brings a lot of energy, vitality, and money to downtown Durham. But it also has some negative impacts, both inside downtown, but also in the historic neighborhoods that ring our downtown. And we have to make sure, whatever we do in downtown Durham, we have to make sure that Durham remains a city where folks can live and work and raise their kids, no matter how much money they make or what part of the city they live in. And I think that's a theme that every candidate is going to have to address in this campaign, is what they want to do to address that basic issue of affordability for working families in Durham. Because what we absolutely can't become is a city like San Francisco, which is a great town, a lot of great things about it, but working people can't live there. They bus working people in to clean their offices. We can't become that. So much of what Durham is, and especially about Durham, relies on the fact that all different kind of folks live and work and play here. It's critical to our economy, it's critical to our culture, and we just have to make sure whatever we do over the next 5 to 10 years, we preserve that really unique aspect of Durham's character. So,
yeah, I know that in particular the last couple weeks we've seen an influx of concentrated crime in certain pockets of
Absolutely.
Durham. And yesterday, before we came on, I was sourcing questions people, friends, and peers had about, and that was a reoccurring theme, was the crime rate. Not that it was spiking, but that it seemed like it was potentially headed in a direction because of the high development that's going on, that it might start inevitably pushing some of this stuff into more concentrated areas. And so how can we be smart about taking on development as a bigger, with a bigger scope, as opposed to kind of putting all of our energy into downtown and inevitably missing what's happening kind of right on the outskirts of
No, I think one of the key things we have to talk about in this campaign and in the city over the next 5 or 10 years is not just economic development downtown, how we do that in a smart way that allows us to keep affordability front and center in our public spaces, but also the fact that we have to do a better job of creating a broadly shared prosperity across Durham. One of the things I love about the development of downtown is that it brings so much outside energy and passion and money into a part of the city that historically had been neglected. But what has tended to happen in recent years is that people who aren't downtown and who maybe can't afford to enjoy a lot of the great stuff that's happening downtown look at what's happening in this part of the city and say, what about my part of the city? What's happening in northeast central Durham? Where are the investment dollars here? And where are our amenities, say, in North Durham? And we have to do a better job as a city, not only of encouraging real estate developers who want to build luxury condos in downtown, because they're not going to stop, bring them to the table with us in a partnership to continue to support affordability in other parts of the city, but also make sure that the benefits that flow from that development result in a prosperity that's shared by everybody in Durham. There are a lot of ways to do it. There are a lot of ways to do it. I think one of the ways we do it is making sure that when we spend public dollars, we do it in a way that's equitable, that takes into account decades and generations of disinvestment, largely generated by racist policies from Washington and Raleigh through redlining of certain communities and robbing those communities of investment. That's the kind of thing we have to keep front and center when we talk about spreading out public investments in a way that's fair and equitable.
And how do we control that? Because we can sit there and look. Justin lives and goes to school on the Fayetteville Street corridor at Central.
Yep.
We look at where, the 147 now is blown through the former Hayti, right? And if you were sitting in Mercury Studio in Motorco Complex, if you put a compass or a tape measure out, that's no further to the Hayti Center and where Justin lives than it is to 9th Street and East Campus. But, if we were to roll slowly down there with Josh Hardt's camera past the places we've seen, we've done some walks like that on our sites in the city. It's like night and day, and that's not by choice of the residents, right?
Right.
How does a city council person or a person who just cares about policy take what we can see on the ground and I don't know, do we use the developers' tax dollars, or what is it? How do we make those steps that move towards more equitable development? Because I don't want to hear it from my audience that we got away with just saying, well, we ought to.
Yeah, no, I think, the city has a capital expenditures budget. There's
Right.
a plan in place. Those are choices. We choose where to spend public dollars for capital investments. We can choose to spend them in downtown because that has certain benefits that accrue to some kinds of folks, and we hope that there are ancillary benefits that flow to everybody else. Or we can choose to spend those public investment dollars in other parts of the city that have been traditionally disinvested. And it's not rocket science. I'm talking about sidewalks. I'm talking about road widening. I'm talking about bike lanes. I'm talking about what they call safe streets. I'm talking about something as simple as the Parks and Rec budget. Where do we spend Parks and Rec dollars? Why are certain parks in this city much nicer than other parks? I was talking to a sitting city councilman about this 3 weeks ago. He said, there's no reason that should continue to be the case.
Right.
And so these are choices we make. These aren't inevitable consequences or byproducts of a system we have no input into. These are our choices, and the way that city council people, members of the city council, affect that is through our votes about budget, is working on staff to get budgets together that reflect the values we want to see in our public spending. And the way that citizens interact with that is by speaking out at public hearings about the budget, about talking to members of the city council, and through their votes. That's the great thing about elections, is that they clarify policy questions. And so often in Durham, it's a little bit frustrating. As you might know, I'm involved in state politics a little bit as the treasurer of the state party. And what you see is that there are a lot of communities in North Carolina where state legislative races, where governor's races, where U.S. Senate races are hotly contested, like Wake County and Greens and Guilford County are places where those races are hotly contested, where they have real vigorous debates. Durham isn't that place. Durham is pretty homogenous when it comes to those larger, overarching statewide and federal issues. But local races, city council races, county commission races, the race for mayor, these are races where you actually get to have a conversation, in part because they're in off years, and so it's a little bit less the political landscape is a little less cluttered. We don't have a lot of the constant air war of ads 24/7, but also because these are the issues that matter to people who live in the city. And so that's what I love about this race and about the local races in Durham, is that they create an opportunity, to create a space where ordinary people can talk about the things that are important to them. You hear, I had someone talk to me about a month ago about a particular resource center, a particular Parks and Rec resource center in a certain part of the city, whether or not that was being utilized effectively. She said, I go down there all the time. I see the staff horsing around. I don't see any kids there. What can we do to revitalize that?
Kitchen table issues is what we call these.
Ways. The mayor's poverty reduction initiative shows a way forward in that, because that's a way that you can make sure that all of the